So that was an eventful day. And we go again tomorrow, where they're playing their 11th game already of the season. I think it's 11 games in 20 days, whereas the Dallas Wings are playing their 7th game. But before we get on to the main part of this video, if you guys are new to the channel, subscribe. We're trying to hit 5,000 subscribers as soon as possible. And lads, we are actually so close. If we can hit that by like tomorrow or the next day, that'll be unbelievable. And obviously the Chicago Sky have only played 7 games, whereas the Indiana Fever are playing 11 games. They're trying to milk everything they can out of Caitlin Clark. And after today's game, I'm doing it. Like, I said it. I made a video a few days ago saying it. And I tweeted it out as well, that I fully believed the Indiana Fever should have pulled Caitlin Clark. That there was no reason. They should have pulled Caitlin Clark for this game to make the WNBA list. Especially now that I've found out that the WNBA has been getting like reports. The Indiana Fever are literally sending in footage of like Caitlin Clark being cheap shotted. They're sending footage of all the crazy stuff that's going against them, and they're still allowing this. I basically said that it was going to get to the stage where obviously teams just are going to do more and more and more and more and more, and they're going to do that until they're going to do that because they're allowed. When a team is allowed, just go into when players are allowed to get more and more physical, eventually they're going to cross a line. And the line was crossed today. I thought it was a matter of when, not if, someone crossed the line. I didn't think it was going to happen in this game. But like I suggested after the Seattle Storm game, that she should have been pulled for this game. And the reason is that I had seen the clip right before. There was a couple of times like where Magbudur had like basically held on, gave an extra little bit of a nudge, hit her in the back a few times where you're like, yeah, these are hard fouls, but it's like, these are ones where it's like, they're not individually anything crazy. Like, I don't think up until today there was anything like individually crazy, except for the fact that right in front of the ref's eyes, Vivian's punched Caitlin Clark. She punched Caitlin Clark in front of the ref, and then Caitlin Clark went in. When Caitlin Clark like squared up to her and they got both double teed, she got punched. And then today, the referees need to be suspended. They actually need to be suspended. Like, I legitimately only found out in the last hour that what should have been an ejection was called as a common foul. A common foul. It should have been an ejection. It wasn't a T. It wasn't a flagrant. They didn't deem it unnecessary contact. The refs did not deem getting blindsided, elbowed, while screaming "you B word" and then screaming "B word" at her on the bench after blindsiding her. They didn't deem that unnecessary contact. They just said, you know what, that's a basketball play. The referees deemed it as a basketball play. Every one of those referees should have a suspension. And I know they don't do this in the NBA, but they do in Europe. Like, if a referee makes that call in a EuroLeague game, especially when it's on TV, they're suspended. Like, they only get, the refs in EuroLeague, they'll get paid per game. And if you make a call like that, you're not put on a game for a certain amount of time and you don't make any money. Like, that's the way it should be. That genuinely is the way it should be. And considering the fact that the Indiana Fever have tried to contact the WNBA, they've tried to get this sorted. They've tried. They have tried. They've been trying to fix this. And if this was a case where this is the first time, okay, I wouldn't be suggesting this. But it's been a season of what I would say are cheap shots. It's been a season of welcome to the WNBA rookie moments. And by the way, the worst thing we have seen to any rookie has been Angel Reese getting chokeslammed by Alyssa Thomas. But you know what? The referees did what was the right thing. They chucked Alyssa Thomas. Flagrant 2. Whereas Caitlin Clark has had 0, and I mean 0, flagrant fouls called against her. She has been blindsided. She's been cheap shotted. She's been hit out of the air. She's been shoved into the rim. Or not the rim, the basket post, whatever it's called. She's been shoved into that. She's been hit with a no call where she got swatted and Magbudur followed through and hit her with the people's elbow. No call. So, like, you're seeing all this stuff happening. And obviously, if you are the Indiana Fever, you're looking at this and you're like, what's going on? There has to be. Like, I'm genuinely out here, like, I've said it, that the WNBA are trying to sabotage the Fever. And it's hard to argue against it. It's actually really hard to argue against it. 20 games, or 11 games in 20 days. And they are literally letting players bully Caitlin Clark out of the league. And if this was a once-off, then it's one thing. Like, if this was a once-off, then you might be saying, just like the Angel Reese situation, then it's not a bad look, it's just a cheap shot. But the fact that the referees are looking at the monitor and saying this is not unnecessary contact, the referees are deeming these as common fouls. The referees are at fault, by the way. This is not even the players. Because every player goes into a game against Caitlin Clark and knows we can beat the living crap out of her and get away with it. They know that. And I'm not even blaming the players at this stage. I'm not blaming Carter. I'm not blaming her, honestly. Because she knew exactly what was going to happen. We can cheap shot Caitlin Clark. We can shake up Caitlin Clark. We can do whatever the hell we want to Caitlin Clark. And the worst that's going to happen is a common foul. She knew what was going to happen. And yeah, the two of them were trash talking each other. But that's basketball. That's basketball. When players trash talk, it's trash talk. But when Caitlin Clark does it, oh, now it's open season. Now we can beat the crap out of her and we know nothing's going to happen because the way the referees have reffed her. If I'm Indiana, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. She does not play tomorrow night. She does not play tomorrow night. This is a game against the Liberty. You're probably going to lose. It's in New York. You can't even say anything about the fans. It's an away game. You've already played in New York, so the fans have already had the opportunity to see her. There is no excuse to play her tomorrow night. Make a stand. Heck, don't play her. Don't play Alyssa Smith. Don't play Aliyah Boston. Play Saxton 40 minutes. And, genuinely, throw the game. Just as an FU to the league. Because you can genuinely, this is my logic. If you're not going to protect our players, we're not going to protect your product. That is my complete logic for the Indiana Fever. And I believe they should go out with this. It's the most extreme measure. It is the most extreme measure. But I actually think it's been so bad and it's been persistent. They've played 10 games. They've played 10 games. And in 5 of the 10 games, she has been cheap shotted, targeted. And there's a difference between playing physical and cheap shotting, by the way. What the Connecticut Sun did to her in that first game was being physical. When teams are trying to rough her up, that's being physical. Albeit, the referees should call fouls on some of the things because the more you let go, the more and more physical you let the game go, the closer it gets to cheap shots. And it's now gotten to the stage where it's now a given we do not call fouls on Caitlin Clark. We do not call fouls on her. That is now, seems to be an unwritten rule in the WNBA, is that fouls on Caitlin Clark do not exist. And now teams are going more and more and more extreme. This is on the league, this is on the refs as much as it's on the other teams. And as bad as it was as a look for Chicago, it was a horrible, horrible look for Chicago, it's equally as bad a look on the league. And the WNBA have got to do something about it. And I think that if the WNBA don't do anything about it, which they're not going to do, because it turns out that they've actually been trying to get this change. They've been contacting the WNBA with, basically about how Caitlin Clark's being refereed and how teams are going after her. And the WNBA not only are doing nothing, but are letting her get beat up more and more continuously every game. I made this video after the Storm game because I was like, she's going to get hurt. It's getting bad. I was like, it's getting really, really bad. She's going to get hurt after the Storm game. And then today, it got even worse. And the fact that there was not one flagrant foul called in that game. Not one flagrant foul called in that game, including the one that should have been a straight up ejection. It is shambolic. It is a joke. And the WNBA, somebody needs to hold the league accountable. And that is my suggestion. Throw the game tomorrow. Throw the game tomorrow because you've got a big no Caitlin Clark run then. So the next game Caitlin Clark plays is on Friday night against the Mystics in a game no one's really going to watch. So it's 6 days from now. She's playing tomorrow. Pull her from the game. And you know what? The entire news cycle for the next 6 days is about whether or not they're going to play her against the Mystics. What's going to happen? How bad a look is this for the league? Is this a bad look for the Fever? And you know what? If it gets people talking about the Fever, and if it gets people talking about the treatment of their player, and if it gets people talking about the referee standard in general, and I do think, by the way, Caitlin Clark is not the only player being attacked by, she's not the only rookie being attacked by vets, but she's the only rookie that's not getting calls for it. Angel Reese lives at the free throw line. When people are hacking her, she lives at the line. Whereas Caitlin Clark is just no call after no call. She's been hacked shooting multiple times and it's been called on the floor. It's bad. It's really, really bad. And the standard of refereeing is pathetic. And it's the reason why, as bad as, like, again, the chokeslam is the worst thing that's happened, but at least the referees got the call right. She should have been suspended. Alyssa Thomas should have been suspended. The WNBA don't have any backbone for not doing that. But the fact that Carter the referees didn't even deem that as a flagrant foul. They didn't deem it as unnecessary contact. Every one of them should be fired. Every one of them should be fired, because as a referee, the most important thing you can do as a referee is to make sure the players are safe. And every one of them failed at that. Being a referee is not, at the end of the day, making the right calls is important. The most important thing at a referee in any sport, at any level, is to make sure the players on the court are safe. And any referee who can't do that is not fit to referee. And none of those are fit to referee. Half of the referees in this league are not fit to referee. And if they're not going to do anything about it, then Fever need to take things into their own hands. Heck, worst case scenario, if things aren't working, there is a player who will fight people. I can't believe I'm saying this, but you know what? There is a player that will fight people. Liz Cambage might be available. If you give Liz Cambage free reign to just beat people up, she might come back to the league. Maybe the worst person to ever play in the league, but you know what? If Liz Cambage is on the floor, no one's touching Caitlin Clark. Because Liz Cambage will cheap shot people. She's cheap shotting people in the Chinese league. Liz Cambage will hurt people. It shouldn't ever have to get to bringing Liz Cambage back in the league. But if this keeps happening, why not bring Liz Cambage back? It can't get worse. You gotta if you're the Fever, the WNBA are making a show of you guys and your best player, then you should make an absolute show of the league.